I got started at a very young age. I started wrestling at the age of 4 or 5 years old. I started in the Beachwood Recreation Department. But it's interesting because Bob Bloom, who was was part of the first wrestling team at Beachwood, happened to be my coach. And my brother, Scott Peters, was also, at that time, was involved in the youth program. He was helping, it was probably his first time ever coaching. So, and I also believe that maybe Mark Krawinski might have been coaching at that time too. We used to practice at the middle school, so I started wrestling there for, I think, 2 years, and then I ventured off to a program called Longwood, which was out in Twinsburg in Macedonia, and I competed with them all the way through my elementary school years and some of my middle school years. I really took an interest in wrestling because of my older brother, Scott Peters, who's 8 years older than me, and he really got me excited about the sport, and I was good at when I started. I was strong, I was fast, so I had a lot of success early on. I came into high school in 1988-89 season. We were at a point where Beachwood Wrestling was not in a good state, down to one wrestler, which was James Gilmore. And there was a time period where we were considering not going to Beachwood. My parents had bought a house in Moreland Hills. We were looking there. We were also looking at potentially a private school, just because Beachwood Wrestling was not good and I was an up-and-comer. And we eventually, obviously, Pete Cimarroni took over the program. Coach I was, at that time, was coaching at Brush. He brought in alumni. He brought in my brother, Scott. He brought in Michael Goldberg. I wrestled at the middle school level. We had some good kids on at our middle school team. I graduated with two guys that were wrestled all the way through, which was Aaron Grossman and Steve Kalin. That we were tri-captains together. But the next generation was the generation. So Scott and Pete kind of sat me down and said, you're going to have to be the guy that kind of carries the torch and just do what we tell you to do. Don't ask any questions. They taught me to be an extremely hard worker. My mentality was be the first one in, last one out, work harder than everybody at all times. Don't let anything break you mentally, physically. Just go, 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 go. And I did that. And they brought guys in, college guys in to work out with me, alumni to work out with me. I got pushed. I was the first freshman state qualifier probably in over 20 some years. I didn't place my freshman year. Ended up taking second in the state as a sophomore, went into the state finals undefeated. And unfortunately, my senior year, I got injured, blew out my shoulder, and wasn't able to compete. At that time, the era was coming together. So we had the likes of the Chad Silversteins and the Brian Zides and the Scott Lances and the Adam Siegels and Brian and Paul Weissman and Jason Thomas, Kevin Borwick, Jason Reimer. They were all starting to come together, and we were coming together as a team. So we got good really quick. So you had your alumni that were coaching. You had Pete that was the head coach at that time, and then you had Michael Goldberg, Jeff Tolan, Scott Peters. And then we brought Mark Scripps in. My senior year, I didn't make state because I got hurt. You had Chad Silverstein and Aaron Grossman who made state that year. So they took us, and that was the next group. We really saw a lot of progress in those years. And then you had the class of '94, took fourth in the state as a team. At that time, I was leading by example, and I really pushed everybody. I took on a pseudo coaching role when I got injured and tried to push. But I believe my work ethic and my mentality really tried to help a lot of people out. Okay, so greatest memories is the friendships that I made. I created a lot of lifelong friendships. There are so many memories that I can just think of. We had a Royal Rumble in my basement when we were in when we were in high school, going to the state tournaments and even going out to dinner. These are memories that you'll never forget. These are friends that are mine for life. Over the years, I've even developed stronger relationships with the Lauren Rabnicks, Bernie Weiskopf, who was my coach as a youth, and I learned a lot from Bernie as a coach. All of the memories. There's not one single memory. I mean, you could cite that the state finals was a big memory. It's a memory I remember every day, think about it all the time. I do remember blowing out my shoulder at Cuyahoga Heights High School, and I remember blowing out my shoulder here, being in a hospital, trying to get my shoulder back in place, sprinting through the hallways. All the workouts, some of the crazy workouts. I remember sitting in the sauna at Scandinavian trying to lose weight. Those are good memories, but they're also hard memories. So obviously my older brother, Scott, was somebody I looked up to. I looked up to all of my coaches. I had a lot of respect. I still have a ton of respect for Pete and Michael Goldberg and Jeff Tolan. I looked, at that time, I had known a lot about the history of Beachwood Wrestling. David Sternberg's, I heard all these stories about David Fisher and Ricky Stone and Sorkin and Butch Lapsley. So I knew the legacy. So those were guys that I did look up to. On a bigger level, right, outside of Beachwood, Alan Freed was a teammate of mine growing up. Alan Freed was the biggest name in Ohio wrestling. Alan and I used to go to Longwood together. We drove together. He was a 3-time state champ at Ed's, and he was a 4-time junior national champ, went on to Oklahoma State and won a national title. But I think Al was probably the biggest name that had an impact on me. But you always looked up to the Dan Gables, you looked up to those Iowa guys. Ohio State had some guys, the Kevin Randlemans and the Mark Colemans you looked up to. Our relationship, and I had known him since I'm 5-6 years old. I was coming in the room at that time. So, I knew that he was a very high energy coach, a very loving coach. I knew my brother loved Coach I. So I didn't get coached by Coach I, but I got advice from him. We became really tight with each other when I started coaching at Beachwood in 1996, 97 year. I had just graduated from Miami. I came in the room and I said, listen, I want to coach. And we did pretty well that year. We got 2 guys to state, and that's when we built a strong relationship. We were coaches together. We were contemporaries, and my fondness grew stronger and stronger. There were times where I was learning how to coach from Coach I, and he gave me a lot of flexibility to do what I wanted to do. Our relationships remain strong. I was with him today. And now the roles are different, right? So now I'm the director of athletics, and he is one of my coaches. I still use him as a sounding board. I ask for advice all the time from Coach I. One of the things that he taught me most as a coach is our history and our legacy. And I've heard all the stories for many, many years. I've heard them from him, I've heard them from other people, but the legacy of Beachwood Wrestling is paramount to him. And so, I feel obligated to continue as athletic director to keep his legacy alive and the importance of what he wanted to build, which was a family, and he did. But all of our state qualifiers, all of our state place winners, all of our state champs, I have met every single one of them, which I'm proud to say. I have relationships with almost all of them, and that's important to me, and I think that's what Dominic gave to me was these people are important to us. So my contribution is threefold. First, as an athlete, I kind of came into a role as a 14 or 15-year-old kid to reshape Beachwood Wrestling, to be committed to our program. Listen, I don't know if I don't come to Beachwood, if Ryan Peters is not there, does Aaron Grossman make state? Does Chad Silverstein wrestle? Right? Does Brian Zide wrestle? Does Brian Chernett? Do any of these guys wrestle? My contribution at that time was that they saw a work ethic, a tireless work ethic. They saw a mentality of never being able to break mentally. I don't think there was ever a time I would break mentally, and I think they saw that work ethic, that mentality, the drive to be the best. I think they saw that. They saw somebody reach a high level at a young age. I think my contribution as a coach, we had some fantastic years. We were a top 5 team in the state many, many times. In 2003, we were a state runner-up team. We were able to bring groups of kids together and make great teams. I think that was a combination of all of us. We had a nice gelling staff we balanced each other off really well. What I was able to give back was my work ethic, my passion for Beachwood Wrestling. And let's just talk about the next aspect is my contribution as an athletic director. Obviously, wrestling's been an important part of my life. I'm still heavily involved in wrestling. My son, Phoenix, is going into the 8th grade. We wrestle all year round, all the time. It's what makes us who we are. So I was a coach of Elite, which was our youth program for many, many years. A lot of our stars came out of Elite. I think that the contribution I gave and that we gave were to keep the legacy growing. And so as athletic director, I think keep pushing the program and pushing where we want to be. I take the same approach that I took as a wrestler or even as a coach with all of our programs. So I do expect our teams to reach high levels of success. The other thing that I think I leave as a legacy is what Coach I wanted. This project that we're working on for this room to leave everything that he contributed to the program, which is all of these guys on these walls, all of the kids that have come through the programs. And I hope we pay an amazing tribute to Dominic for his 60 plus years of service to Beachwood Wrestling and showcases the beautiful history of Beachwood Wrestling. I don't think there's a day that goes by that the word wrestling is not discussed, talked about. I think the sport of wrestling kind of sets you aside in the mere fact that there's only one way I know how to become great, and that is to work hard and do things right. You have to live your life right, you have to work hard, and you've got to be focused and dedicated. It impacts my life every day. Every move I make, I don't even know how to describe it. You walk around as a wrestler. So it's really the fabric of our family. Unfortunately, Phoenix has a lot of pressure. He is an awesome kid. He works hard. I want Phoenix to be able to take away from this sport the lessons of life, right? So you have to be an amazing teammate. You have to be the first one in. You have to be the last out. You have to show gratitude towards your coaches, and appreciation to your coaches, and to be a really good person, to take care of others, to understand that there is higher levels of success, and you just got to keep climbing. If you don't reach your level of success that you want, you don't pack it in. You get back up and you keep climbing. The crazy part about wrestling is you never reach your pinnacle, right? We're in the midst of watching the Olympics, and they're world champions. They're still striving to be the best. And they've reached the pinnacle. I mean, we've seen them. You always are trying to be a better person. You're trying to improve yourself. It's all about self-improvement. This is a hard sport. This is not a sport for everybody. I will tell you, I think everybody should try the sport of wrestling. This sport will make you stronger forever, mentally, physically, emotionally. There won't become an obstacle in your life that you'll be scared of. You have to go into it 100% and work hard. Put extra time in. You can't get great at the sport unless you put a lot of extra time, and that means getting up early, staying up late, doing things during your free time to make yourself better. Just getting better each day. You can't worry about the wins and the losses.